Thank you for being a part of this journey we're going to go through over the coming weeks of Lent through the lens. Again, this is an opportunity for us to practice something that is known as contemplative photography. And while we're doing it during the season of Lent, it's not necessarily a Christian practice, even though I am a Christian minister. It is more just about how do we experience the world in a bigger way through what we see, what we feel, what we take in around us. Each week, we're going to start with a short centering video using photographs in the coming weeks, ideally, that'll be submitted by each of you, that will help us see the ways in which each one of us have seen that theme, that focus, that centering idea. But today, as we begin, I'm going to start with something that always speaks of beginnings for me, and that is a series of photographs of sunrises. And so I invite you to take a few moments now to take a few deep breaths, wherever you might be. Slow down, make sure your phone is turned off or on silent, and that you're able to just be in this moment as we begin together. Feel free to come back to that devotion at any point during this week or in the weeks ahead. It will be staying up on the site, and hope that it is a renewing thing and has been a renewing thing for you. One thing just to let you know, you may hear some interesting noises in the background. My dog Scout is currently here with me. She's right down here snoozing on my couch. So she may start snoring or something else in the middle of this, but hey, she's centered and relaxed. We'll go with that. Anyway, I did not come upon the idea of contemplative photography by reading about it in a book and thinking, wow, that sounds really awesome, or anything like that. It really just emerged organically in my life. I've always kind of enjoyed photography, but it hasn't always been like this passion for me. But in 2013, I learned something about myself through what is known as the Enneagram, if you are familiar with that. I learned that I'm rooted in what's known as the five, the spot on the Enneagram that's known as the five, or the observer, or the investigator. And as I was learning about this, one of the things that was shared was that folks who are rooted at five tend to have this unconscious intentionality about observing and taking in the world around them. And one of the ways in which many fives experience this is through photography. And that led to, in 2014, me beginning a practice using the Psalms, a book of songs and poems in the Bible, where each day I was reading a psalm and finding something from that psalm in my day, and using a photograph of that to be a part of my reflections and journaling. And it was a transformative experience for me. And out of that emerged my own practice of contemplative photography. Along the way, I have learned that there are others who have been trying to work out ideas around this contemplative practice as well. And it's been fun for me to find my experience in theirs and see how it parallels, but also the ways in which it might be a little bit different. So what we'll be sharing is kind of my experience and what I've heard, not only in my own experience, but also what I've learned through these other means. So we are starting out today, though, with just the beginnings, kind of foundational stuff. And one thing I want to share right here from the outset is this is not a practice of trying to have the best photographs or the most artistic or the most beautiful. It is about giving you an opportunity to receive and to be able to center and reflect on moments. And ultimately, about helping each of us quite literally see more. Not just visually, but see more with our heart, with our mind, with our bodies, with our experience. So if a photograph that you share isn't perfectly in focus, that's fine. If it's kind of grainy and you're using a camera that's kind of old and doesn't result in the greatest of photographs, that's okay. This is not about great photography, but about practice of experiencing the world in a deeper way. So this can be done with a big DSLR camera, multi-$1,000 camera. It can be done with a small, handheld camera, small little pocket camera. It can be with your phone. Even if you don't have a camera, it may be just you having those moments where you are going to just simply stop and receive the moment that you are experiencing and describing it. So we're going to start with specifically talking about something with language. And that's going to lead into our practice for the week ahead. One of my groups that I was leading at the Hive, this contemplative organization in Cincinnati, we were talking about photography, and I was just using the language that I've always kind of been used to with photography, taking photos. We're going to go out shooting. We're going to capture things. Don't forget to snap a photo when you get a moment. And there was a participant in my group who asked if she could speak with me for a little bit after our session. Sure, of course, absolutely. She shared with me how she was having an extremely hard time with the language of what we were sharing in the session, because she was a domestic violence survivor, and that she now worked as a counselor for a shelter providing women safe haven from domestic violence. And so she shared about how that language of shoot, take, capture, snap were words that had a violent sense to them. And that she was having a very hard time reconciling those words with ideas of beauty and peace and contemplation. And you know what? She's right. Now, I could have taken that moment and been like, okay, get over it. No. But I'm glad that I didn't. Because her sharing that with me opened me up to a bigger sense of what's happening in photography, and especially in contemplative photography. Because when I'm standing on the edge of Winton Lake with some of those sunrise images that you saw earlier, and I use my camera and there's a photograph and I receive that moment, I'm not taking that moment away from somebody else. It's still there for anyone. It's my own moment of experience, yes. And a photograph allows me to hold on to that moment, but I'm not taking it. I'm not capturing it. And so I've been seeking to try to use different language around photography, and it's uncomfortable because I'm not used to it, and it doesn't flow quite as well to talk about receiving a photograph or holding on to a moment. And even that sounds a little like I'm taking something. So you're going to hear me use some different language about photography as we go through this session, but I wanted to share that because that really is the springboard to what I would like to focus on, pun intended, during this week ahead. In the weeks that follow this one, we're going to have a specific theme, like color or patterns and things of that sort for us to center upon. But initially, I want to invite you this week to just be intentional about being aware of the world around you. Being aware of a moment that draws you in. Being aware of something that touches your heart or surprises you or makes you wonder. So it might be something real simple. It might be something that you see on a counter in your office. It might be something in your home that just spoke to you in a certain way. When you have a moment like that this week, stop. Take a deep breath. Look at that, whatever it might be, that thing on the counter, that moment you're seeing at a sunrise or up in the sky, or something you're seeing in nature, wherever it might be. But just take a moment. Breathe into that moment. Maybe get out your camera. See what kind of photograph can come out of that moment. Not worrying about whether it's a perfect photograph, but just seeing what emerges. So this might be just something that you allow to happen once this week. It may be something, maybe each day, to say, I'm going to just take 10 minutes today and have a different sense of awareness. So I invite you to enter into that practice this week. In the text of this message below, you'll see ways to upload and share your photographs with me. I'd ask that you please get them to me by Friday of this week so that they can be crafted into the devotional or to the reflection that will be posted that next Sunday. So I hope this is a meaningful experience for you, of helping you see, experience, feel, take in more. Thanks for sharing this journey.